So today we have 5 agencies to present their work, and we have 1 hour for the 5 agencies. So each agency will have 7 minutes to present the final report back session. Once that 7 minutes is up, Lucy will make an emoji reaction that's hopefully visible to everyone on screen. So, however, that doesn't include Canadian Hearing Services. And yeah, so everybody can shoot their questions by chat box, and hopefully we have a question and answer session in between as well, and at the end of the session as well. Yeah, so unless any other suggestion, I think we can start. Naveen,
No, your slides aren't showing anymore. I don't know if that's...
Yeah.
Let me check.
Okay. So we're going to start with land acknowledgement, and Nashova.
Hi, everyone. I just want to echo Abel's welcome to everyone. I'm going to start with the land acknowledgement. And the reason we do land acknowledgements is really as an opportunity to reflect on the impact that we have had on Indigenous and local populations, and also to acknowledge our opportunity to do better and to improve the way we interact and the respect we show to other communities. So I'd like to acknowledge that the land on which we gather here in Toronto as a traditional territory of the Wendat, the Anishinaabe Nation, the Haudenosaunee, Métis, and the Mississaugas of the New Credit First Nation. Each of you are on different parcels of land, so please take a moment to acknowledge the land that you are on and the communities that are originated there. The territory that I'm on right now is part of the Dish with One Spoon Wampum Belt Covenant, an agreement between the Iroquois Confederacy and the Confederacy of the Ojibwa and allied nations that was intended to allow them to peaceably share and care for the resources of the Great Lakes. The image of the dish with one spoon is with the idea of sharing and working together collaboratively, which I think is a beautiful image. Today, Ontario is still home to many First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people from across Turtle Island, and I'm personally grateful for the opportunity to work on this land. In terms of situating myself, I'm an immigrant to Canada and so a settler. My parents and I moved here from India in the hopes of building a better life for our family. I've been fortunate to be able to call Canada my home now for over 50 years. And through reading and talking to people, I'm committed to increasing my own knowledge and awareness of the true history of Canada and ensuring that my work and interactions can reflect my learning. As I said at the beginning, land acknowledgements, though imperfect, encourage us to learn about the land where we reside and to consider the impact our work has on Indigenous people. It also creates an opportunity to reflect on how we can engage better and how we can share decision-making, renew respectful relationships across communities, and improve access, experience, and outcomes for everyone. I recognize that since many of you are attending virtually, that you are on different parcels of land. And so again, I encourage you to take a look at some of the background reading and the information around your own communities and to acknowledge your own land. I also want to take a minute just before we start to congratulate the 5 teams, CMHA Kenora, Lanark Leads in Grenville, Monarch Recovery, Vesta, and Canadian Hearing Services, who are reporting back today. You have all worked hard through challenges, both internal and external. You've learned a lot about your own organizations and about quality improvement and the model for improvement. From what I hear from the coaches, you've been engaged, curious, and passionate, and you've been open to the approach that you are learning and committed to serving the people that you deliver service to every day. And I want to congratulate you in advance for getting to this point. And I am also really excited and looking forward to hearing about your journey. Abel, I'll pass it back to you.
Thank you, Nashova. Well explained and rich land acknowledgement, and thank you for the introductory message as well. Our first presenter is going to be CMHA Kenora.
Okay, I'll share my screen here. There's a Regan and a Reagan. We are different people, but we are on the same team. So I'm just gonna, can you, oh, I don't have permissions.
No,
oh.
you don't need to share your screen. Naveen is going to
Okay, perfect.
yeah, slides. Yeah.
So Reagan, are you with other members of the team? We're all kind of separated. We have some space issues right now, so we couldn't book a room. So we're kind of all over the place today. But I see some people from.
I just have myself and Tracy in the room.
Okay, perfect. So I'll start by introducing, and then maybe you guys can jump in.
Okay, you have slide control now, Reckon.
I do? Okay.
Yeah.
Oh. Okay, my presentation looks a little bit different than this, but that's okay. Maybe we put in a different copy. So we're from CMHA Kenora, and our project involves a bunch of members from our team. So it's comprised of management, our QI committee, and then our ACT team, which is where the main focus is on. But we did find that a lot of the stuff we're learning with Abel through coaching and stuff like that is really going to impact a lot of our programs. So it's kind of cool to see the different teams taking different things and just making our transitions for all of our programs and our discharges a lot more better for clients. So I'll just kind of let you know of how our journey started. So we've always been driven by quality improvement. It was through one of our quarterly quality improvement committee meetings that the concern over question number 28 on the OPAC came up, which is the question, I have a plan that will meet my needs after I finish the program and treatment. So we strive to be a recovery-oriented agency and strive to be as client-centered as possible. And this came up as a major barrier to client-centered services, and then our project began. So Reagan, you want to jump in there?
Sure. So our problem statement was, according to OPAC, question number 28 data, clients indicate that they are not ready or not thinking about transitions out of the ACT program. So OPAC question number 28 is that I have a plan that will meet my needs after I finish the program / treatment. So what we really focused on here was the answers where people disagreed or where people indicated it was not applicable. So 18.8% of people disagreed, and then 31.3% indicated it was not applicable. And then we had a few people who agreed. So 21.9% strongly agreed, and then 28.1% agreed. So our aim statement and our goal of our QI project is that 75% of ACT clients will agree or strongly agree with OPAC question number 28. And then these are some tools that we used to do our quality improvement project. We went through some PDSA cycles, some driver diagrams, all as a whole QI team. And we found these really helpful just for brainstorming, trying to find some change ideas, all that kind of stuff. So here's a few that we have on the screen here. Okay, and then we just focused a little bit on one part of our driver diagram here. So we looked at some change ideas. And then, so some examples are, not some change ideas, some areas of concern, I guess. So clients and staff were not comfortable with the project. ACT services were longer in duration, so discharge wasn't a priority. People fear people will fall through the cracks. There's learned helplessness, codependency, and clients not knowing the purpose of ACT criteria. So that's just a few of our areas that we'd like to change.
So some of our change ideas we came up with were to discuss discharge planning during our recovery plans. Clients' needs over time will be met. Two recovery plans are reviewed by the team each week. Clients have the recovery plan reviewed every 6 months, and then discharge discussions will be had with clients during the recovery plan review. And then we're monitoring that is being done. We're checking it off, and then we're keeping track of that through a run chart.
So this is an example of the driver diagram. So 78% of ACT clients strongly agree with OPOC question number 28. So the discharge conversations are not being had with clients and between staff. Staff feel that discussions were not needed when clients are not ready, and discussing discharge during the OCAN planning and recovering plan. So the number of discharge discussions had with the client during their recovery plan is something they've been tracking. And then the time spent reviewing, discussing these recovery plans, and then discharge planning during the recovery plans will increase to 75%. So 3 of 4 discharge discussions to be had every 2 weeks. So the ACT team does recovery plans all the time. So they're just making sure that this is an ongoing conversation. They're tracking this. And if staff aren't, that Tracy would be following up to see the reasons behind that, right? So it's just not kind of checked off. It's an ongoing dialogue and conversation with all the team members.
So when we're looking at our PDSA planning, we kind of focused on one change idea here, just to kind of highlight what we've been doing. So one of our change ideas, and the one we've been working on the longest, is for staff to increase discharge discussions with clients/staff during service. So we record whether discussions were had during our recovery plan. We have a little tick box that we check off just to ensure that we were discussing discharge planning and kind of how ACT works. So we're on our first cycle right now. So cycle 1 is to increase discharge discussions prior and during recovery plans. So right now we're collecting the number of discharge discussions had. And then once we collect enough data, we'll modify it, we'll adopt it or abandon, and then we'll just continue doing cycles until we like the results. So that's the one we've been working the most on so far.
So lessons learned during cycle 1 so far. So we've learned that staff need reminders to complete discharge discussions with clients. Staff reviewed what a discharge discussion entails. Some clients were not able to have discharge discussions. Multiple attempts may be warranted. New clients don't have a thorough discharge discussion, but intake checklist is being modified. Potential modifications, so Cardex whiteboard reminders, standing agenda item to remind staff. So we've added it to our standing agenda on weekly meetings, just to remind staff to do the discharge planning. And then certain ATR locus scores can trigger discharge planning. So once clients reach the 2.88 or over, then they qualify for a possible transition. And then we have our run chart, and that this is just with our discharge planning checklist. So we've just been keeping track of how often we've had our conversations. So at the start, we really weren't having many, and then it is increasing. And then our goal is for 75%.
And then our last one here, some lessons learned and aha moments during our QI work so far. So staff realized how little we had been having discharge conversations with clients. So much so that over 30% of respondents stated that it wasn't applicable to them. So we will know our project is sustainable when desired outcomes are achieved in 2023 when our new OPOC results come out at the end of the fiscal year.
Yeah. Thank you to Team CMHA Kenora. Yeah, you finished it on time. And I hope you saw Lucy's clock or stop sign as well, but you didn't need that. You already finished on time, so thank you. Our next speakers will be from Lanark, Leeds, and Granville Addiction and Mental Health.
Hi, I'm Sarah Hamill, and I'm going to be reporting on behalf of Lanark, Leeds, and Granville Addictions and Mental Health. And our project was focused on our Rapid Access Program, which is a quick access to service program that we have for case management and counseling services. Can you go to the next slide, please? Thanks. So in an effort to provide services that best meet client needs, our organization has historically made some really big changes to programming based on anecdotal information from clients, staff, and community partners. And often these program changes have had really unintended consequences, which would lead to more amendments to the program on a regular basis. And unfortunately, this has led to a program design that has been patched together, leading to confusion about the purpose of our rapid access program and who it best serves. So we decided to use the E-QIP program to learn how we could implement change in a more consistent and thought out manner. And that allows us to use the tools that we have at our disposal to generate high quality data. And here's how we did it. So our problem statement was that we did not currently have a defined process for identifying client needs, which led to a lot of frustration for clients, staff, and community partners in really inconsistent service access and provision. And our hope was that by the end of March 2023, that we would develop and implement a process to identify the needs for 100% of clients who are accessing both the case management and counseling programs through rapid access. So here are a couple of our diagnostic tools. So we have a process map, and it just very briefly demonstrates the very complex ways that clients are able to access these programs, which led to some major challenges. And also our fishbone diagram of a lot of the various process and other challenges that were part of the project. So our change idea was to implement the GAIN SS in both the rapid access case management program first, and then the rapid access counseling program. And we settled on the GAIN SS because it's a tool that we should be using anyway, and it would give us a good idea of what the level of need for addictions and mental health was within our clients. And we knew we'd make a difference when we had collected enough data to give us a really good snapshot of the mental health and addictions needs of the clients who are accessing RA. So here's our driver diagram. And while we were working through the project, we really realized that process was a challenge for us. So we settled on the lack of a structured or standardized tool, leaving us not having an idea of what client needs were, since most of it was really just based on anecdotal information. And our change idea was to try to replace or adapt our current registration process to better capture and clarify client needs. So right now we have a list of what those items were, but they weren't clearly defined and everyone was utilizing the form differently, which led to a lot of confusion. So one of our process measures was to check the number of clients with unknown risk factors. So if it was unknown, we knew that the clinician wasn't asking about particular items on that form. And as a balancing measure, we developed a miniature version of the OPOC with certain questions that would be helpful to determine the number of clients who were satisfied with their rapid access session. And that would tell us whether or not their needs were being met by the program. So in our PDSA cycle, we started by implementing the GAIN SS as a screening tool with all the new clients in the rapid access case management program. And we collected that data using the built-in form in EMHware. And so cycle 1 went pretty smoothly. And then it was when we got to cycle 2 that things started to become a little bit more challenging. So at cycle 2, we recognized that we had more than just intake and a case manager in rapid access doing screening and registration, and that there were another 9 people who were also completing this information for clients. And so that became overwhelming in terms of trying to figure out how we would move this forward with the organization. And we also ran into some challenges with just data collection as an agency as a whole, which made it really challenging to move forward. So our run charts were pretty good. We actually did very well at the percentage of unknowns and risk factors. So we were doing a good job of identifying that piece. The portion of the registration form with identifying client needs was a little bit different. We had to spend a considerable amount of time developing a set of definitions for the different presenting problems that clients can arrive with. However, that overall was a very fruitful part of the project because we now have a guide for completing registration with all of the definitions matching our funders. So that was something positive that came out of what we were doing. our lessons learned. So overall, we decided to put the current rapid access program to rest, and we're going to rebuild the program from the ground up. It was incredibly challenging to try to get the data that we wanted, just based on the lack of definitions that we had, the number of staff who were involved. There were some management changes halfway through the project, and they added even more responsibilities to the rapid access program itself, which was exactly what we were trying to avoid in designing the project in the first place. So management decided that the best thing to do would be to start from the ground up again. So one thing that we will be doing is using a lot of the information and tools that we learned throughout this process in order to make sure that we run that project more successfully. So one of the lessons we learned that was, when done thoughtfully, data collection at screening and intake can be an important source of demographic and clinical information, and that can really help us develop and implement programming more effectively. And we know that everything's going to be more sustainable when we are consistently implementing screening and registration in a standardized manner. And we're hopeful that we can do that with the new project, so that from the very beginning, we're really keeping track of what we're doing and our intention, and that the changes that we do make to programs actually reflect needs instead of just hunches or reactions to things that have happened on one occasion. So that is our project in a nutshell.
Thank you so much, Sarah. And actually that coincides with Lucy's icon there. She just put the stop sign. Yeah, so if there is any question, hopefully we'll have some opportunity to give opportunity to presenters at the end. And now let's move to the next presenters. Monarch Recovery Services.
Hi, everybody. I'm Angie Gadet, one of the program supervisors. Our project title is Getting to Better. I have control. Okay. So this is a project that was done with one of our sites. And I don't think I can switch pages. Here we go. So our story, we're a recovery home with a 3-phase program that supports men in recovery from alcohol and or drugs. The program is designed in a fashion that allows them to relearn life on life's terms, meaning rebuilding bridges, finding work, transforming relationships, and working on becoming a better part of society, all while working on their recovery and what it will look like when they leave. We decided to do this QI project since 7 of our Monarch Recovery Service programs surveyed, and we had the lowest score on question number 27. It shows that there are some clients that identify a need for staff to help them develop a plan when finishing the treatment program. This may cause residents, family members, and staff to feel the program is incomplete. So with this QI project, we are hopeful that we can increase the number of residents that feel supported in developing a plan for when completing the program. So through our past surveys, we've noted that many residents are new to our programming when completing the survey. So we will be changing when the survey gets completed. We've also created a discharge plan that will be worked on in phase 2 and 3 of their stay with us in hopes to better prepare for discharge. So our problem statement, according to the OPOC report, number 27, it shows that there are some clients that identify a need for staff to help develop a plan when finishing. And our aim statement is for by December 31st, 2022. We're hoping to increase our average score from 3.12 to 3.5. And we're hoping that residents will feel increased support during service and will feel better prepared and more involved in developing their personal goals and discharge plan. Some of our tools, we really enjoyed using the fishbone tool. We did have multiple staff work with us on it, so we're lucky for that to get some good feedback. And really proud of our Pareto chart and how much work we did on that as well. So some change ideas. Our first change Idea is to have participants complete the OPOC upon entry into phase 3 instead of doing it as a campaign style. And we'll know that it's working when we see how many people entered into phase 3 and complete that OPOC, and how many people discharged from the program and complete the OPOC prior. Driver diagram. So our aim statement was to increase from 3.12 to 3.5. So one of our primary drivers was to have consistent collection of the OPOC data at the point of time and service. The secondary driver was to make sure staff will consistently know when to administer that OPOC, and to add a checkbox to our service plan document to be sure that the OPOC plan survey was completed. And the process measure was the number of surveys administered in phase 3 or prior to discharge. And the outcome was to make sure that that average score for OPOC question number 27 had increased. So our PDSA was to have participants complete the survey at the prescribed time that we talked about, and to make sure that they had a clear understanding of what point of time service that they're at. So questions we wanted to answer were, do they understand the questions on the survey? And do staff feel comfortable supporting participants while they complete it? And our predictions are that staff will feel comfortable in supporting participants in completing the survey because we're going to give them some extra tools, and that the participants will respond with less I don't knows and not applicables. So for cycle 1, which was from March to May 2022, we had 8 participants that completed the survey, and we had an increase from 3.14 to 4. So we were very excited. So here's our red chart. This is something that we were super pumped about too, because we had a lot of really great, information and numbers, which we were happy to have. So we had 5 years of data with us, which was nice to see. So lessons learned, we were most excited about the amount of data that we had, which I don't think we really thought we did have until we did the work. And we learned a lot about data collection and how to do it more efficiently and meaningfully. And we're super excited to find out, you know, we're going to know point of sustainability when we do see that average increase steadily above 3.5. And that's everything, I think.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Thank you, Angie. Thank you for sharing your experiences and what you learned from this project. It was, it was great experience, especially when you mentioned about discharging your clients based on measurement instead of campaign style, right? Also, we just saw your 5-year worth of data. So that's also shows the value of the data you have. Thank you. Okay. Next presenter is going to be from Vesta Recovery.
Yes, so my name is Joyce and Patty is here with me as well. Patty will be managing the slide deck. So Vesta is a residential program for women who want to recover from the impact of the use or misuse of substances. We are a bed-based program. We are located on the unceded territory of the Algonquin Nation. I wanted to acknowledge that. So our project title, if you could go back one slide, please, Patty. Our project title is Return to Pre-COVID-19 Programming. And our goal was for the end of June of this year. Next slide, please, Patty. So our project story, I met with the clients who were here at the time back in September and asked them if we could do anything to increase the satisfaction that they were feeling with the program, what might it be? And the main thing that was spoken about by the clients was that we were in the middle of COVID and they were feeling quite cooped up in the house and felt that they would just be doing a whole lot better if they could get out in the community. So we started doing some work and piecing together that, okay, what they're really talking about from the staff perspective and program perspective is an opportunity to strengthen relapse prevention skills and to get back to doing some discharge planning, which we were doing pre-COVID. So the strengthening of the relapse prevention skills via discharge planning would be done via family visits, which were hindered greatly as we continue to be very cautious in applying health and safety measures regarding COVID-19. Now, a little bit later into the process, we caught up to the fact that all the staff and most clients had been triply vaccinated. So we wanted to explore how we could safely return to opening things back up in terms of time spent in the community and possibly with home visits. Next slide, please, Patty. So our problem or opportunity statement is as follows, and we wanted to tie into the information that we had been gathering on the OPOC questionnaire since April of 2017. So pertaining to questions 30, 33, and 34 of the OPOC questionnaire, which related to opportunities to strengthen relapse prevention skills and discharge planning via family visits, which were hindered as a result of COVID. As we continue to be very cautious in applying health and safety measures, given that all the staff and current clients were triply vaccinated, we wanted to explore how we can safely return to opening up these aspects of the program, but also avoiding an outbreak of COVID. So the aim statement, as pertaining to questions 30, 33, and 34 in the OPOC questionnaire, we want to return to full pre-COVID relapse prevention and discharge planning activities by doing the following. We wanted to gradually increase the activities or opportunities in the community from 1 to 6 opportunities by June 2022. This would be carried out while adhering to Ottawa Public Health guidelines, consulting with the client group and the staff team, with the goal of maintaining 0 COVID-19 outbreaks by June 2022. Our E-QIP team consisted of the executive sponsor, who was our executive director, myself as the project lead. We had a program staff member join us, Patty. We also had a student here from Carleton University who was part of our team, as well as a client who later became a volunteer. Next slide, Patty. Okay, Patty, over to you.
Thank you so much, Joyce. Good afternoon. So we had lots of fun. Rishi was our coach that walked us through the diagnostic tools and helped us with those. As Joyce shared earlier, we also got the clients involved from the get-go. So Joyce had presented the fishbone diagnostic tool, as well as the keyword exercise to the clients, as well as the staff team. So we had a really broad overview and lots of great ideas that resulted. So the impact and effort grid. This was really interesting because this tool actually took all of those change ideas that came from both the staff team and the clients and broke it down into quick wins, major projects, and things that we needed to schedule all the way out. Obviously, as you can see by the slide, there was nothing to schedule out, but a couple as well that we sort of, we might have to rethink and sort of set aside for the time being that didn't really apply. So this was really fun because we could take some quick wins and just like get some motivation and some, for lack of a better phrase, quick wins under our belt. And that really caused everybody to come on board with the E-QIP project if they hadn't already. So the next slide, this is a mini driver diagram. And the reason why we did a mini driver is because we identified quite a few primary drivers out of our aim statement. But the first and foremost primary driver was certainly safety. So out of safety came 3 secondary drivers, which is discharge planning, relapse prevention. And at the time, it was the impact of the trucker convoy that was parked here in downtown Ottawa, which is where we're located, on the safety and security of our clients as they're trying to get out into the community. So this also resulted in a number of change ideas, reinstating home visits as per our pre-COVID schedule, reinstating 12 steps community support meetings in person as opposed to virtual. Also taking advantage of the ministry's jumping on board with Breaking Free Online, and checking out with the clients and sharing updates around the meal table and in group. This is a residential treatment program, so we can use those times just to casually share updates and check in on the clients to see what their stress levels are. Just going to change the view. Okay, so we also have the process measures listed there. And the outcome measure was very evident because of our use of OPOC since April of 2017 in this agency. So we could actually see the answers as we were reintroducing some activities. The PDS planning was a great cycle, a cycle that we continue to use to this day. One example that I've listed here is change ideas of introducing clients to more online services, and then going through the entire cycle to find out whether or not we should adopt, adapt, or abandon. And this is our run chart. You can see that we sort of slumped in our numbers between December and January. That was due to the Omicron variant, but currently as of June, as of today, we sit at 71% of activities. And I'm going to quickly hand it back over to Joyce for lessons learned.
Thank you, Patty. So we definitely benefited from participating in a process that uses data collection and analysis in meeting our goal of returning to full community activities. The data collection has been helpful in avoiding predetermining possible outcomes. Gathering thoughts and opinions and ideas from as many staff and clients as possible was also very helpful. When we brought some of the E-QIP information to our staff meetings, the staff just loved it. They loved the tools. They loved our fresher way of looking at things. The impact/effort grid helped our team identify and move towards decisions that we could implement with less effort. This was important to us, especially after dealing with COVID for over 2 years, as we need to offset fatigue by implementing quick wins.
Sorry to interrupt, Joyce. We're at time.
Okay.
Are you able to 10 more seconds?
Sure, yeah. We clearly learned the benefits of E-QIP by using the Plan, Do, Study, Act tool. And I wanted to just highlight the researching virtual resources. Actually, I want to go to the very bottom. In working with the E-QIP coaches, so both Rishi and Beth, we were pleasantly surprised at how this has broadened our knowledge base of tools available for data collection, analysis, and implementation of quality improvement at Vesta. Thank you.
Thank you, Joyce and Patty. Thank you so much. And including engaging clients was, for me, that was one of the highlights and key ingredients for this project. Well explained also about your run chart fluctuations. That shows your understanding of the data and the lessons learned also. Yeah, thank you so much. And our next speakers will be from Canadian Hearing Services.
Hello, everyone. My name is William, and I am part of Canadian Hearing Services, and we provide services to deaf, and hard of hearing individuals, as well as those who have a hearing loss. So next slide, please. As you can see from our driver diagram here, we provided a survey to staff who were involved in specific professional development. And that professional development was provided in ASL, American Sign Language only. So we surveyed them after to see how they felt. Were they comfortable? Did they need to work on stuff? And the goal was really just to increase their comfort level in attending PD and ASL. Our outcome measure, obviously, the OPOC survey will be disseminated at a later point just to see how that PD and ASL has impacted the provision of services to clients and the client satisfaction for that. Next slide, please. Our OPOC survey, of course, had only been in English print language. So one of the goals that we had was to translate all of these OPOC questions into ASL, American Sign Language. So we had to meet with OPOC staff as well as create videos so that they could be created into this survey. So that was a really exciting moment and phase for us to be able to provide our survey questions in ASL as well. Next slide. Some of our short-term quick ideas, we have, of course, have staff attending the workshop presented in ASL. So 2 workshops have been completed and the next one is being held in July. After that workshop, we will again survey them to see their comfort level. In addition to our CHS staff, in general, is updating them about what we have been doing under this project as well. So it's important that we let the other staff know what we've been doing, and then we can sort of course, have continued information shared to them as meetings go along. But we did have that one meeting that we let them know what we had been up to this point. Next slide. Our long-term change ideas. Nope, go back one slide. Sorry, there we go. Nope, I had one. That's the one. So some long-term change ideas. One is setting up deaf culture training and requiring our staff to attend deaf culture workshops regularly. And the other one is regarding our onboarding. So creating an onboarding package for new Connect staff to attend to, and that's something that is ongoing. So if we have a new Connect counselor, Connect mental health counselor, being aware about deaf culture, deaf community, as well as American Sign Language is something that is in progress and seems to have had a really good start so far. Next slide. Lessons learned. We're finally excited to have some data so that we can start measuring outcomes and implement positive changes, identifying critical key opportunities, as well as increased collaboration with agencies, networks, and professionals. Having a team-wide input with all of our staff has really allowed the onboarding committee to identify several gaps in training a new staff and standardizing items into a checklist, as well as creating a foundational 101 onboarding course has uncovered the need for continuous learning. So resources are being collected for a 102 course. Next slide. Here's some additional lessons learned and comments from the professional development and debrief survey. And that's what we did after the PD. So staff who were involved gave their comments. For example, I enjoyed the discussion, getting used to colleagues and their ASL. I wouldn't have been able to turn the video on to comment or ask a question as it happened too quickly. But then at the end, I felt more confident in training myself and more familiar and used to the presenter's way of providing information. Next slide. So again, under lessons learned, how will we know when the project is at the point of sustainability? So certainly CHS upper management has implemented system level change, such as staff who have completed 304 are automatically prompted to enroll in professional development in ASL. There's enhanced cultural awareness in ASL language communication for future and current staff, established professional development in ASL and deaf culture, improved satisfaction ratings from our deaf and hard of hearing clients, And once our data reflects several cycles of change ideas going well with ongoing staff buy-in, then we'll be able to determine the project's sustainability. Next slide, please. This is some of our survey results, just showing our staff's comfortableness level in attending the training in ASL. So it just shows sort of how many were very comfortable, comfortable, neutral, uncomfortable. So just an idea of what those results look like. And next slide. This is a list of everybody who is involved on our team, and we can quickly go to the next one. And the last slide, the next one. There should be one more slide, one last one. There we go.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Janice and Williams from Canadian Hearing Services. Well detailed, well explained, and thank you for sharing your experience working around, especially with ASL, to meet your needs for the project. Glad you include also the comments from the professional development sessions. Yeah, thank you so much. And now I think we're done with the presenters. So I'll pass to Lucy, my colleague Lucy. Yeah.
Thank you. So I very much enjoyed hearing everybody's presentations and seeing everybody's slide decks. Well done. I just want to echo those comments of my colleagues here. So there is a survey for you to complete. As today is the first in our series of reporting back touch points for this week, please fill out the survey at the link. I'm going to post it in the chat as well. Sorry, just one moment. And then we're going to post a poll briefly just for you to check off that you have done the survey. So it's here now in the chat. It will take you to a SurveyMonkey link. Gonna pop to the next slide, but give everybody a moment just to complete that survey while we're all here together. And Naveen, are you able to launch the poll?
Yep. Just a second. I'm having some difficulty here. Ash, would you be able to pull up the poll?
I will certainly give it a shot. Unfortunately, I'm getting a message that no poll or quiz was created.
Okay. I'm getting a message. You are logged in from another device. Your polling session is inactive. So I am not sure. Were you able to create it? I can send you the message on it. It's very straight.
Just in terms of, in lieu of a poll, is there anybody that still needs more time to complete the survey? Can you just press your raise hand? Okay. It looks like maybe most people are completed the survey, so maybe we don't need to do the poll right now. If we can get it launched, we will, but I think we're good to move on. If anybody definitely needs more time, just let us know. Okay, so next steps. What is summertime all about? So we're encouraging you to continue to monitor your change ideas. Collect the data now as you move through. Consider your threshold for sustainability. So a lot of people have already given thought to this and shared this in your report back deck today. We just ask about when you will know that you've reached sustained improvement. And what will you continue to monitor past August 31st? Is this a multi-year project? And think about who else might benefit from hearing about your project. You've invested a great deal of time and effort into the activities that you've completed so far. Think about how you might share that with your community, with your clients, with family members, and with your peers, with colleagues throughout the province, and throughout your area. Staying connected. So as you may have seen the slide a few times before, it's just another reminder that there are many ways to engage with E-QIP. Maybe some of the teams are feeling like they're at the end of their project work or close to the end. So maybe there's more of an opportunity now with some resources to engage in other types of E-QIP engagement. So you can, if you haven't already, follow us on social media. Our Twitter account is here. Our email, of course, if you need to reach us and aren't looking for a coach in particular, then it's quality@equip.ca. And our website is here. Again, if you haven't already registered or completed the Foundations to QI e-course, the registration link is available through this slide. You can sign up for our newsletters, engage in learning on QI cycle and data literacy through our webinar series, and engage in agency-specific governance and leadership training. Okay, and the chance to apply for Cohort 7 is also upon us. So as you can see from this slide, the applications were due June 17th, which has just passed us by a few days. Don't worry though, if you are interested in QI project coaching for Cohort 7, we ask that you email us to let us know that you have an application that you're working on that's forthcoming, and to let us know when we can expect that so we can help plan ahead for this new year. Okay, and another way to take your QI activities one step further. Is this QI project part of your quality improvement plan for your agency? And if not, is there an opportunity to add to it? You can consider joining E-QIP's community of practice. And just to reiterate the governance and leadership training. Do you have new board members or new senior leaders? So it'd be a great opportunity to engage them in QI. And you have others in your organization who have an interest in learning more about QI. Again, they can consider signing up for Foundations to QI Ideas e-course. And finally, if there's any questions, curiosities, we have about 5 minutes left. I'm just going to look in the chat to see if there's any questions there. Feel free to unmute or ask a question in the chat.
I was just going to ask a really quick question, or just more of a comment, really. When I was looking at the run charts as they came up in the presentations, one of the things that came to my mind was, and one of the teams, I think it was Vesta, was commenting on, with Omicron
had hit in their run chart and how there was a dip. And it would be really great to see that annotated. So put a little comment bubble in your run chart that shows where that happens, so that anybody who's looking at that can interpret that information and not want to ask questions further, because it would be an understanding that they would have by looking at that. So that was just one of the comments that came up for me in my mind and reflection on your run chart. So, and the fact that you have run charts is absolutely amazing. It was really great to see that. So thank you for sharing all of that.
And I've just seen Linda shared in the chat. This is also an opportunity to ask questions of the presenters if you have something in mind. Okay, I'm seeing no questions. So thank you everyone for attending today. Feel free to send questions if you think of them after. Oh, yes, Lori's comment. Great work. Enjoyed all of your presentations about your projects and learnings. And hopefully we will see some of you back for the other days this week. So tomorrow afternoon we'll be joining again, and Thursday morning for report back 3.
Bye,
All right.
everyone.